So let's talk a little bit about this spawn system that we've got set up here. We have a main cube, which is somewhere on the map. It doesn't have to be a rendered game object, just be somewhere. Mine's actually under the map, look. And that's your main spawner. It contains the main logic. And then the other things we have here, as a parent, it's got a bunch of children objects, and those are your spawn points. That's where your zombies are going to spawn from, or your spaceships, or your, I don't know, your blobs, whatever you got. So, as the game begins, you'll set a wave increment, how many zombies you want to come out, blobs, spaceships, etc. And they will come out one by one out of a random one of these cubes each time. Now, just to confirm, one of them's come out of cube 5, one's come out of 6, one's out of 7, one's out of 10, and one's out of 12. So let's drop the health of those zombies as if you were to have shot them all, killed them all. Check our cube again. And we can see here that the wave increment and reset has ticked in. We're now on wave 1, and the new zombies are spawning in at an increment of 8. So 9 will spawn in this time. If you've got an increment of 4, 5 will come in, 6, 7 will come in. There's always one extra. So they're just about to hit my player now. We'll move down and we'll grab all of those. How many have we actually got? 9 in. So we'll take those 9, we'll grab their current health, we'll reduce it to 0. And then we'll hit play again. And the wave will increase to 2. The increment will go up by 4. This time there will be 13 zombies on the map. And they'll spawn in slowly, one at a time, from random spawn points. As you can see, cube number 6 here has already had 3 zombies spawn in from it, so it's turned off. So we don't want too many coming in from the same window. 5's only had 1. 7's only had 1. 8, 9, 10, and so they've all had 1. 12's had 2. Number 11's just turned back on. There's a timer, 5 seconds, or 3 seconds I think, after the spawn points had too many come out of it at once, and it'll turn itself back on. Or rather, the main point will turn the one that it's found back on after a few moments. So we can grab our player and we can move him to the other end of the map. And what you'll notice is when he's out of range of certain spawn points, they turn off. They're no longer on, because we don't really want zombies coming in at the other end of the map after the player, when they have to traverse the whole map to get to him. And you could get through about 6 or 7 zombies, and then you have to wait for maybe 30 seconds for one to run all the way around. We don't want that. So let's check what we've got here. All 13 are on the map. We have the increment of 12, wave 2. Let's reduce their health down to 0. Go back to our cube. Check the numbers. So they will drop. Okay, the increment's correct. The wave goes up to 3, I believe. There we go. It takes a second sometimes. It's all written on coroutines. And the zombie amount will slowly start to increase again. Wave increment is now 16. There'll be 17 on the map. However, I have a limit. I don't want there to be too much logic going on all at once. I don't want loads and loads of the navmesh agents taking up all the CPU on a phone, so we only have 15 as a maximum amount of zombies that can be on the map at any one time. They've actually got one of these guys that's come right up to me really quickly. So I'm just going to get him out of the way. Move the player a bit. I'll wait for all these zombies to spawn in. I've done it like this because I don't want 12 of them to spawn at one time and then all come at you from every window. I mean, if that feels, it doesn't feel right. So they're already right up to my player again. I'll try and move them around and show that the only 15. There we go. So 15 at once. And only 15 will spawn in. Once you've killed a couple, the rest will come in. By the time you reach wave 10, you'll be bringing in about 44, so 45 zombies each time. So you'll need to run that nearly three full waves would have to be taken out before you get to wave 11. And that sort of feels right. You can limit it if you want, so that no more than 60 will ever come out for a wave. So after you reach wave, I don't know what that is in maths, maybe it's round 15, round 16, something like that. And then no more will come out than 60. Every single wave will be 60 zombies come out. And then you can start increasing their health from that point, I suppose. That's something that you can do to the script. I haven't done that yet. But so let's go and take a look at the code. What else are you going to need? So you'll definitely need your main spawn point, which is the parent of all of the child objects. You'll also want some way of detecting the wave and describing which wave you're on. So that's your wave text up there on your canvas, up in the top right corner for me. We'll swap over to my other screen so you can see that. And that's up here. Just run the game again quick, and we'll go through this really quickly. I forgot to mention, so obviously the spawn points at the other side of the map, they're all turned off now because I'm over here. They won't turn back on until I come within a certain distance. That's included in the script. And we've got one more there. That'll be the finishing touch. Now, as you can see, wave 1 we've moved up to. Seems a bit transparent on the PC, but it's not like that on the phone when testing. So that's that. Let's take a look at the code now. You can ignore this. This was my previous iteration of it. It didn't work quite the way I wanted it to. So this will be the main spawning script, which goes on your spawner main. You're going to need a private transform for the player. You're going to need 5 public integers, one for the amount of enemies, one for your wave number, one to reset your wave, one to increment your wave, and one to check your wave. You're going to need a public game object array, which is going to be your spawn points, a boolean called reset. You're going to need your text, your public text, which is going to be using Unity Engine UI. You're going to need a personal int, like a local int point choice. It's going to be the choice of the spawn point, and your private game object, the chosen spawn point. So on start, you're going to set the wave increment to whatever you want. It could be 10, it could be 8. I've set mine to 4. You're going to need a reference to the player transform, which for me is game object, find object with tag, and I've named it player. And then we take the transform of that. you're going to want to start 3 coroutines: check radius, check wave, and spawn function, and make sure that reset equals to false. On update, you want to set your wave text to the wave plus wave number, which is one of your integers, which you're going to be using anyway. And then we're going to start coroutines. So the first private coroutine, you're going to put a wait. You'll wait for 0.5 of a second. You want this running quite quickly, but you don't really want it running 60 times per second like in update. There's really no need for it to run that fast. And so for each game object spawner in points, now that's a new line there for each game object of type spawner in your array points. You're going to call the script. This is another new variable. The variable script is the script that's on the spawner. So spawner.getComponent spawns point. You're going to say that if the script, the spawn from count, so we might need to go into the other script now as well. So before we go any further, save that one. Grab your second script. Now this is going to be on each of the spawn points. You're going to want a private game object, which is going to be your chosen enemy. Mine's a zombie. You're going to want a private integer, which is going to be the enemy choice. A public game object array, which is going to be the prefabs of all the enemies that you have coming out of the spawn points. Obviously you don't only want one coming out, you want a random color choice difference. Each of those prefabs can have their own enemy management script on them, so they could all have different healths and etc., damages, types of raycast length and what have you. And you're going to want a private reference to the main script. So mine's called spawn zombie, yours could be spawn enemy, whatever you've called it. And I stick a little M and a dash under there just so that I know that it's part of the menu. You're going to want a public boolean to set whether the script coroutine has begun. I've called mine has begun. And you're going to want 2 public integers, a wave limiter and a spawn from count. So on start, get your reference to your main script with get component in parent. Set your wave limiter to 4 and set the spawn from count to 0. And then in update, make sure the wave limiter is equal to the increment from the parent script. Now we can go back over to the other one and finish the coroutine. Where do we get to? So the script variable that you're going to get from the game object spawner in the array of points is going to be get component and the name of that script in the children. Mine's called spawn point. Probably simpler if you keep everything named the same and then you can go and change the names after, I suppose, if you don't know what you're doing. So the first part of the coroutine is to check if too many zombies have spawned out of the point, then to turn it off. So I've put if the script spawn from count is greater than 3 to set it false, and then to wait for 5 seconds before putting the spawn count back to 0. This part doesn't turn it back on yet, it just changes the integer. And then you're going to check for the player transform. So if player transform, and remember that's the private transform that you've got, and you're declaring that in start. So create a new float called distance or dist. Equal that to a vector3.distance between the player transform's position and the spawner's transform position, and that's for each spawner. Remember, this is happening for all of them. So if you've got 5 or if you've got 12, if you have 100 different spawn points, I'm surmising this could get quite heavy. So maybe don't make that many. So you've got the reference to the float. You've created a distance. And you say if it's more than 40 feet, set the spawner to false. Turn it off. Set active false. And if the distance is less than 40 feet and the spawn from count is 0, set it back to active, set active back to true. Remember, you set that 0 there after 5 seconds. So every 0.5, so every 5.5 seconds, it will check to turn that back on if this parameter is true. And then right at the end, you restart the coroutine so that it loops. Set it into a loop. Now, to actually spawn the zombies, we're going to need to go and create a zombie spawn void, which is going to be another coroutine. So on the actual spawn point, create another private coroutine, private IEnumerator zombie void. You need to put your return new wait for seconds. I have made mine 3. And then here we're going to get a random choice out of the zombie prefabs that we've chosen. And to do that, Unity basically does it for you. You just type random.range and give it a parameter. So we zombie choice, which I believe you've already got a private integer of, equal that to random.range, or between 0 and the length of how many zombie prefabs you've got in your array. And then your chosen zombie is equal to the zombie prefabs choice. Now this is where the has begun comes into effect. If underneath that you write if the boolean has begun equals to true, and if the zombie amount from your parent script is less than the wave limiter on this script, double and sign, which is and the wave checker amount on the parent script is less than the wave limiter. Sorry, actually, it's specifically, it needs to be less than or equal to. If you try messing with these two symbols here, there you get a whole bunch of strange behaviors. So just keep that as it is, less than or equal to, less than or equal to. And finally, the zombie amount is less than 15. You can change that to whatever number you want. It could be 30 enemies. If you've got, for example, if you're using this in an isometric top-down sort of game and you're not using nav meshes, you're simply doing transform.position or transform.lookat move toward, then you could probably have hundreds of enemies on screen. But because I'm using a nav mesh agents, and loads of different colliders, and I'm using rigid bodies and ragdolls, I really want to limit how many can be on screen at once. So mine's 15. Yours could be hundreds if it's a 2D game. Especially if it's a 2D game, you could have hundreds of monsters coming at you. So within that parentheses, we're going to declare a game object of zombie, and then that game object we're going to instantiate as the chosen zombie, which is chosen from here, random, at the position and rotation of this transform. You don't need to write this, just do transform.position, and as a game object that clones your prefab quite nicely. You don't have to write as a clone or any of that crap, just clone it as a game object. If the parent scripts, so take the parent script zombie amount and increase it by 1, and take the parent script wave checker and increase it by 1, and take the spawn from count from the script and increase it by 1. You just plus to do that, and then set has begun to false. Next you write else, a parentheses, go into it, write if, and a parentheses. So you've got an else if statement. That basically means if this happens, otherwise. This is else if. I don't know why they didn't just turn the whole thing into a word otherwise. It makes so much more sense. Otherwise, make sure the parent script wave checker is equal to the parent script wave reset. And then you turn has begun to false at the top. It's important what order you do these in. Take the spawn zombie reset, make it true. Get the parent script wave reset and the wave checker and equal them both to 0. And then under that, still within the if statement of has begun equals true, you can set it to if. You can set the has begun to false if none of these parameters are met, or rather, if that one's not met, followed by this one otherwise being not met, this will be met. So you restart the coroutine and make that has begun if false there. And that's the spawn point script finished. Now, lastly, we've got the spawn function. Now that we have the spawn zombie void working on the other side, we're going to create this new private enumerator called spawn function back on the parent script underneath the check radius. This coroutine, you're going to wait for a second, and we're going to do another random check. We're going to say if the point choice is equal to a random range of 0 and the length of the points array, then the chosen spawner is equal to the points array chosen number, random number there. So this here, active self, the next part of this coroutine, I believe, is deprecated. I don't think Unity are going to continue this on very much, so you want to make sure that you have another method for using this. It's the only thing that I could find when I tried to type in chosen spawner is enabled, or is not equal to not enabled, or is active and enabled, or enabled active in hierarchy. None of these things worked. None of them. So this is the only one, and they've deprecated it, which is winding me up, because that means that at some point this will be removed, or it won't work, stop working. So I'll need to find a new way of doing this. But for now, in Unity 2019.4.11, this works. It's happy. I don't think it'll be a problem in Unity 2020. Not just yet, but there's a possibility it will be. So underneath our random choice, we'll say if the chosen spawner dot active self. That means that if the spawner that's been chosen is active, we'll do this. We'll declare a new variable called script, just like up here. Exactly the same. It's the chosen spawner dot get component spawn point instead of spawner dot get component spawn point. So if you do copy paste that, remember to change it to the chosen spawner, the chosen one. Now we'll say if the script has begun is equal to false and the zombie amount is less than the wave limiter from the child script, then we'll set the has begun to true and we'll start the coroutine on the child script. We'll initiate the spawning of the zombie, and then underneath that directly we will loop this coroutine, and then we write else without an if statement. Basically, if none of this is true, loop it, just re-loop it and re-loop it until you find a spawn point that is active. And then finally, we'll do the wave reset, which I've called check wave because it actually does a check. Because you're looping it, it's checking all the time, but a lot slower than a update check because, again, you don't need all of these things running 60 frames a second. It's just too much. You only really need them running every couple of seconds because it takes time to do everything in the game, so there's no point in running them that fast. So the last private coroutine, I enumerate check wave. Stick a wait in there, wait for 2 seconds. Now it's quite important that these ones, the first one and the last one, have those kind of times on them. This one is this number here is your spawn time. So every second a zombie will spawn out for me. You could change that to 5, and every 5 seconds a zombie comes out. I'm actually thinking about having that at around 1.8 seconds. Just slightly less than 2 seconds. I think it's going to be a comfortable time. So your yield return new wait for seconds is at 2. Every 2 seconds this will happen. If the wave reset is less than or equal to 0, because it can go below, if you've got an extra zombie on screen for some reason, then you're going to say if reset is equal to true, and reset is called here. If you remember, it's called here when your wave checker and your wave reset equal each other. So if the reset is equal to true, then you increase the wave number by 1, you increase the wave increment by 4 or 10 or 50, whatever you want. Mine's 4 zombies. You could make 20 more of your spaceships come out, or 15 more blobs appear, or whatever. And then you set reset to false. Underneath all of that, you loop your coroutine check wave. And that concludes how to build a wave system for spawning zombies, or pretty much anything based on your character's location and based on randomness. Because you don't want 60 zombies coming out of one of the spawn points and then only 4 coming out of each of the other ones. And that's pretty much it. So I will bid you adieu. Thanks for watching. Any questions, plug them in the comments, and enjoy the spawn system. I don't know what I'm going to be doing next on here. Probably going to be creating a window system next, whereby you can repair windows with boards, and I'll be creating some sort of function for when some sort of logic for when the zombies come up to the boards, they have to break it. I think that'll be fun to do next. I'm not going to add any more guns into it yet. I'm not going to add any more. Yeah, I definitely think the window breaking is going to be my next bit of logic. I'm getting very sick of the zombies just running through the windows at you. I want to make them wait outside. It's going to be a lot more fun. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.